Heritage Sports. We got a great episode for you all today. We're going to be talking about Anthony Richardson and his draft status going into the 2023 NFL draft. We're going to talk about team fits, where he will go, and stuff like that. And this is stuff I'm used to as a former NFL agent. I will sit down with my clients and go through a draft plan on different team fits that I think they would go to and how far they will fall. And if I'm talking as Anthony Richardson's agent going into this year, I'd be like, Anthony, you're the smartest man I've ever seen. I'm going to tell you why. Because all analysts says he needs another year. Even me, outside of my bias as a former NFL agent, saying, look, you would need another year. If you put in another year and you took another step, you could be a top 5 pick. You have that kind of ability, that just big play ability. You know, we're going to go over comps, whether he reminds you of a Cam Newton, a Steve McNair that can move a little bit more, that kind of thing, because he has the arm strength, the talent, all of that. And we're going to go over his weaknesses as well. But I would say, look, you need another year. You could be a top 5 pick. Anthony Richardson's like, the heck with that. Have you seen the draft class next year? If Anthony Richardson waited and say he didn't take a big step or he took a step, whatever, even with that being said, the quarterbacks that could come out next year, Anthony Richardson would be a second-round pick. No doubt. Because this year's draft is very quarterback heavy. It's those 4, and then there's a drop-off. You know, they'll have the kid, the quarterback from Stanford go. But we're talking about second day. We're talking about the second, third round, and the second day, and then the last day. So if he came out next year in 2024 with that draft class, potential draft class, oh my goodness, he could be waiting. He wouldn't even show up in New York. This year, he can actually show up in New York based on what they have. They're a bunch of quarterback-needy teams that need to develop quarterbacks. And on top of that, he can go in the top 10. Like, that's not far-fetched. And I'm it's crazy to think about this because we're going to go over his numbers in a second. This is, like I said, this is a top-heavy quarterback class. In my opinion, even with this class, like without the quarterback needy teams, just a normal regular year, I feel at best he would be a first round pick from 20 to 32, kind of like a Lamar Jackson kind of year. But the quarterback class is really scarce, so he's actually moved up. He could be a 10 to 30 pick. He could be picked between those picks in the first round. And when you look at it, it really can be an 8 to 30 pick because they could, like, as of right now, the Carolina Panthers have nothing at quarterback, and they're sitting at number 8, and they could be a serious run on quarterbacks. Bryce, CJ, and Will Levis can all be drafted in the top 10, which a lot of mock drafts are saying that they will. Somebody's going to fall, and it's either going to be the Raiders, the Colts, whoever. They're going, even the Bears, like they're anticipating them to trade their pick. So, boom, that could happen. The Texans, might take Bryce Young. The Colts might take CJ. They might take Will Levis. They might take whoever. And then the Raiders on the clock, and they're going to basically pick whoever's left unless they move up. So they could end up picking CJ Stroud, which they would prefer. But I don't think CJ drops that far. I think they're going to be left with Will Levis, or they're trading out of the pick, or they got to draft Anthony Richardson. I mean, that's really what it is. But it could be a serious run of those top 3 quarterbacks because they got to get somebody. And then there's Anthony Richardson there at number 4. If you wait until 15 or whatever, you could be left with the bag because people are going to trade up once those 3 quarterbacks are gone, and the next one is Anthony Richardson. So he could go even higher, high as 8 to the Carolina Panthers. Okay, so let's just look at his numbers, all right? He's only had one real year as a starter at the University of Florida. 176 completions for 327 attempts. That's a 53.8 completion rate, accuracy rating. And he threw for 2,500 yards, basically, 2,549. I'm just going to be honest with you. I like the kid. I don't mean to beat up on college kids, but we got to be honest. I would be honest with him if I was having a conversation. That's unacceptable. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. He has a 53.8 completion accuracy rate, and that's not going to do it. That's not going to cut it. 2,500 yards passing, no. He had 7 TDs throwing the ball, and he really didn't throw the ball that much because you could tell by his passing yards, and he still had 9 interceptions. So I understand by his body type, he's 6'4", 230 pounds. Cam Newton was 6'5", 245 pounds. Cam Newton went to Florida before he started his odyssey and all that stuff. But you're going to put some respect on Cam Newton's name, all right? The man went 14-0 at Auburn, and he went 185 for 280 pass attempts. So 185 completions to 280 attempts. That's a 66.1 completion rate. All right, that's good to really good. All right. So let me break it down for you. 60 and above, 60 to 70 is average. I would say 60 to 65 average. That's where you want your quarterback to be competent. 65 to 70, you're really good. Like you're good to really good. And 70, that's like you get into that elite status. Like you know how to spin the ball. So you want to look at the Shedeur Sanders, the Caleb Williams, look at their completion rate. It's going to be up there. 50% of your passes, 53.8, is abysmal. It's awful. And I would just have to be honest with him. Like, your accuracy rate is a problem. I don't care what anybody say, it's a problem. I don't know what system y'all were running, whatever the case may be. You only had one read that could happen to try to limit your interceptions, but that's unacceptable. And it's crazy because he still might get he's going to get drafted in the first round. What I'm saying is crazy. He might get drafted in the top 10 with that completion rate. But what's exciting about him is his playmaking ability. He's explosive. He can just get up, run 30 yards. He can do a quarterback sneak. Who's stopping him with that body type? But moving on, Anthony Richardson again went 6-6 for a senior. Well, not for a senior year. His last year at Florida. And despite not throwing the ball that much, he still threw 9 interceptions. My overall impressions to NFL team, if I was talking with them, I would tell them, one, if you can't draft C.J. Stroud, I wouldn't draft a quarterback. I'll just wait till next year. But anyway, if you want to draft a quarterback, here's my advice. And you drafted Anthony Richardson, you have to know he's going to be a project. And what I mean by project, he's not going to be ready to be the face of a franchise or QB1 on a team as day one. It's not going to be, you're not putting him in the best place to succeed if you do that. It's just not. So we're going to talk about team fits in a second. So the Texans have a lot of picks. So the Texans are drafting number 12, I believe, their second first round pick. They could really pass on a quarterback or trade even more, get their best defensive player that they want and fill out their team, and then come back at 12 and draft Anthony Richardson. If they did that, I'm okay with it, but they have to understand there has to be a veteran. They have to bring a veteran in. Davis Mills or whatever his name is not going to cut it. They have to bring back Tyrod Taylor, and I think I've talked about that a little bit. But you're going to need to bring in somebody he can learn from, and it's going to be a 2-year process, all right? And they're going to have a new coach, so the new coach should have time to develop that person. Shit, let me not say that because the Texans will fire you after one season. I don't know. Whoever take that job, I don't know, bro. So you may have to win now. So let me not say that. But there should be some leeway to develop this kid because that's what he needs to do. All right, so like I said, I'm looking 8 through 30. And I think I misspoke earlier. The Panthers have the 9th pick. The Falcons have the 8th pick. And that wouldn't surprise me. I'm not a believer in the Ritter kid. And I mean, if they like him, they like him. But I could definitely see them drafting a quarterback. 9 is Carolina. The mock draft I'm looking at has Quentin Johnson going there. Quentin Johnston is really, really good. 6'4", 215. I could see them taking that. But all right, so we're going 10 to 30. So the 10th pick is the Philadelphia Eagles. They own that from the Saints. They're not drafting a quarterback. Tennessee Titans just drafted the kid out of Liberty last year, Malik Willis. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. That's where number 12 comes in, Houston Texans. Like I said, they need to bring in a veteran. It could work, but they need to understand it's going to take a while. The Jets come up at number 13. Now that's going to be really interesting. If Anthony Richardson got into the mid round at about pick 12, he needs to be looking at his phone. For real. Like I'm desperately looking at my phone because it may be early. Somebody might trade with Philly because they know they might, draft somebody else, not a quarterback. But he needs to be looking at his phone. If the Texans don't draft him, the Jets are really interesting. What are they going to do with their quarterback? I do know Robert Saleh needs to win relatively soon. I don't think Zach Wilson is going to do it, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, they definitely need to figure that part out. 14 is the Patriots. The Patriots love to trade back, so be on the lookout there. Green Bay. We're going to know a whole lot more by the time the draft rolls around what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. I feel that the Packers need to do right by Aaron Rodgers and draft him some help, like Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. I think he's the closest thing to Gronk, and people know it. Gronk had no business going in the third or fourth round, whatever he got drafted. This kid reminds me of him, watching him earlier this season. And then they have the Commanders. The Commanders are slotted to draft Anthony Richardson in a lot of mock drafts at number 16. But the problem with mock drafts, everybody sees them. Everybody knows that. So people could be plotting. So I would say that that's the furthest he can drop as of this date. Going into the combine, going into his specific pro days, yeah, he needs to just maintain the status quo and he won't slide any further than 16. So the Commanders have them. That's the problem with them. Carson Wentz sucks. You have to move on from Tyler Heineke. He's a great locker room person. People want him to start, but the talent isn't there. So you're going to have to clear out your quarterback room. And yeah, you're still in the team. Yeah, you would love a quarterback number one to excite the fan base, but he cannot be the starter for your team. It's just not setting him up for success. And Ron Rivera won't be set up for success. They need to pair him with someone, and that's just the only way that's going to do it. All right, I'm going to go through the most ideal fits. So if the Colts don't take him, the Panthers don't take him, if the Raiders don't take him, the last team that could be on the board that he'll fall to in mock drafts are the Commanders. If people want to trade up, I think his most ideal fits as an insurance policy are for these 4 to 5 teams. Let me give you the most ideal place. The Dallas Cowboys. And I remember I was talking to you all about comparisons. Yeah, he reminds me of Cam Newton because of how big he is. But he also reminds me of Dak. He reminds me of Dak Prescott when he plays more than Cam Newton. Everyone knows Dak, to me, has a lot of accuracy issues at times. He makes up with using his feet a lot. And they try to put him in a system where he can make the best throws for his throwing capability, for his arm ability. I think that's ideal. Dak's not going to be usurped as the starter. You're not going to take his starting job in the next 2 or 3 years. That's great for Anthony Richardson. He could come in, learn from a quarterback that has a very similar playing style, be in that system. And the way Dak plays, you've seen it. Sometimes he hurts his wrist, he hurts his ankle, he hurts whatever, and he may not be able to go. Those are the spots where you can finally get a quarterback in to get those type of reps. I understand that Dallas Cowboys have Cooper Rush, and he's really good. He can spin the ball out of West Virginia, and he can fill in a pinch. But I'm talking about you can really get him some game reps, kind of like when Joe Flacco would get hurt and you would bring in Lamar Jackson. And he could really get game reps. So when he's finally ready to start, whether for the Dallas Cowboys or wherever, he'll be prepared. So I think that's the most ideal fit, not because he'll wait for a few years. He will also be able to learn from a quarterback that has his type of playing ability. Okay, insurance policy. He could be insurance policy for the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith. We love Geno Smith. Hey, I ain't right back. But Geno, you're a space filler. I mean, he's a really, really good quarterback, and he knows he's a placeholder to the next quarterback. Could it be Anthony Richardson? Can he bring him in? That's a great question. I think they could. The one I'm going to give you is really interesting. The Ravens. The Ravens. If they tag Lamar Jackson and they cannot keep Huntley, where do they go? Because the quarterback beyond them, the third string quarterback, you could tell he wasn't ready to play. That's the reason why they're not playing in the playoffs anymore. I think Anthony Richardson can really come in. You could tag Lamar and play hardball with him because I feel that Lamar Jackson is walking in their office, the GM's office, and saying, I want the Kyler Murray deal. And the Kyler Murray deal was ridiculous. They shouldn't have gave him all that money. But let me take that back. Please, no, actually, all players deserve all that money. They should get more and more. What I'm saying is that amount of money for what they gave away, and then Kyler Murray may not even play in the next season, is what I'm saying. It's you really need to be careful giving away long-term contracts for franchise quarterbacks that run a lot because they can end up getting hurt. Lamar Jackson didn't play the damn near the rest of the season because of his knee. So you need to make sure you temper expectations with Lamar and say, look, you want this money? Great. We're going to bring in this insurance policy just in case things don't work out. The Bucks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Minnesota Vikings are the last two teams I'm going to talk to you about. Tampa does not know what Tom Brady's going to do. He could come back. He cannot come back. Who knows? You need a quarterback there that can develop. And if Tom Brady comes back, that's great. Please work with Anthony Richardson. Please. And he is familiar. He's a Florida kid. Anthony Richardson is from Miami. He knows his surroundings. He'll be comfortable there, and he'll be able to grow and be able to put on for his home state. With that type of stuff, putting him in the best position, putting him in the best team is really, really crucial with team fits. He doesn't have to travel that much. He's familiar with his surroundings, and he can learn from Tom Brady. Now, if Tom Brady leaves, again, he cannot be the franchise starter day one right now. But he can come in and develop for that team in Tampa. The Tampa area would love him. The Minnesota Vikings, same thing with Kirk Cousins. This is actually great. Kirk Cousins is not going to sign this big 5-year, 6-year deal because he's going to want it all guaranteed. That's how he rolls. So he's going to get a shorter term deal. You bring in Anthony Richardson again. He is going to be able to do more in that offense. You could work him in, especially with those skilled players. You could work him in kind of like a Taysom Hill. You come in, do a run package, and then all of a sudden we could throw it on a rope, really take some pressure off of Kirk Cousins. I think it's a absolute fit for the Minnesota Vikings. You get to play out the Kirk Cousins saga for another year, 2 years, whatever, and then Anthony Richardson is there at the helm, ready to go for the Vikings. So that's my thought process on Anthony Richardson in this draft. I think he falls no later than number 16 to the Commanders. However, I do feel some people will jump up so he can go way earlier. There's a chance he can go. It sounds crazy. It really does. This dude got a 50% completion rating. He could literally go in the top 10. But I think at the end, if their three quarterbacks are already taken, he's going to be the fourth one, and he'll go no further. He'll fall no further than the Washington Commanders. But again, that's not going to be the most ideal place for him. So we'll see. Again, Anthony Richardson, I think, man, you're the smartest person in this draft. You got your money. You're going to be in the first round. You're going to be in New York if you want to. And hopefully you get to the right fit. And I think the right fit is the Dallas Cowboys. But the Cowboys are not known to just trade up and do stuff like that. But you can still end up in an ideal place like the Minnesota Vikings or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Anyway, can't wait till the draft. It's going to be awesome. I was going to say the Miami Dolphins. But they're they draft number 21 and their pick was forfeited because of their owner. But I think Miami is going to stick with Tua, but they need to really think about what they're going to do. Tua had 3 concussions that were really serious. And I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying if he gets another one, will the NFLPA allow this person to keep playing, or will they shut him down for the season? If he's shut down for the season, I love Teddy Bridgewater. He's not going to do it. You know, they drafted, I don't know if they drafted Skylar Thompson, but he played really well. But he's not going to do it. What are you going to do? You need to draft a kid that that has Miami ties, that's comfortable, that knows what to do and how to play in front of that town, that would be Anthony Richardson. Problem is you don't have the 21, you don't have the 21st pick, so you're gonna have to trade into the first round, but that's not gonna happen. Anyway, till next time, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. I appreciate y'all so much, and Heritage Sports.